4:15 in the morning. That's when I gave up trying to go back to sleep and just started keeping a little notebook by the bed, tallying how many times a night I got up. Some nights it was 2, some nights it was 4. I'm Robert. I'm 83. And for a long time I thought that notebook was just a record of getting old. It wasn't. It was a record of my blood sugar, and nobody had ever explained that to me in plain language. I still change my own storm windows every October, up on a step stool, no help from anyone. At 83, that's not nothing, and I don't take it for granted. Here's what nobody tells you at the pharmacy counter. The bathroom trips and the parts of you that used to work without a second thought, they're not two separate problems. They're the same problem, showing up in two different rooms of the house. I remember sitting at my own kitchen table one night, pill bottles lined up like little soldiers, the blood pressure one, the water pill, the metformin, and one more I didn't like looking at for something a doctor once called erectile difficulty, like it was a footnote to everything else going on with my diabetes. Nobody ever separated that pill out and said, this one's connected to the same thing keeping you up at night. It just sat there in the row, one more thing wrong with me, instead of one more clue about what was actually happening in my body. My late wife never said a word about it, but I saw her go quiet some evenings, and I knew. That's its own kind of ache, not the physical one, the other one. The feeling that you're becoming less of a partner, less of a man, one prescription bottle at a time. So let's talk about the actual mechanism, because once you understand it, the notebook by the bed and the other thing stop feeling like two separate insults and start feeling like one problem you can actually work on. When your blood sugar runs high for years, your kidneys start pulling extra water into your urine just to flush out the excess glucose. It's called osmotic diuresis, and it's one of the oldest, most well-documented facts in diabetes physiology. That's a real, mechanical reason you're up at 3 in the morning. It isn't your bladder failing. It's your blood sugar forcing your kidneys to work overtime while you're trying to sleep. At the same time, chronically elevated blood sugar damages the thin layer of cells lining every blood vessel in your body, your endothelium. Research on glycation, the process by which excess sugar damages proteins in nerves and vessel walls, has documented this mechanism since the early 2000s as central to diabetic complications. And here's the part that matters for both problems at once. Healthy blood flow anywhere in the body, including in the tissue responsible for a firm erection, depends on that same endothelial lining releasing enough nitric oxide to let blood vessels relax and fill. Damage the lining, and you damage both the kidney's ability to manage fluid properly over time and the blood vessels' ability to do their job everywhere else, including there. Your doctor almost certainly knows this connection exists. What he doesn't have is an 8 or 10-minute appointment built for explaining it to you slowly enough that it sinks in. That's a teaching conversation, and teaching conversations are the first thing to get cut when the clock is running. I've talked to enough men in our comments section to know I'm not describing something rare. One man wrote in last spring, 66 years old, diabetic for 9 years, and he said it plainly. I stopped setting an alarm because my bladder does the job better than any clock. He laughed about it in his message, but underneath the joke was the same thing I felt for years. A quiet embarrassment about a body that used to run on its own schedule and now runs on someone else's. That embarrassment doesn't just live in the bathroom. It follows a man into the bedroom too, because it's the same nervous system, the same vessels, the same body deciding what it can and can't do reliably anymore. And here's something worth sitting with. This isn't a story about willpower. Nobody talked themselves into osmotic diuresis, and nobody's going to talk themselves out of it either. It's chemistry and plumbing, not character. That distinction matters because so many men my age carry a private shame about this that has nothing to do with anything they did wrong. If your feet burn at night, or go numb, or feel cold no matter how many socks you wear, please don't ignore it. I almost did, and I'm 80 years old. For years I told myself it was just age, the tingling, the heaviness in my legs climbing the stairs. But it wasn't age. It was my blood sugar quietly damaging the nerves and the circulation in my legs. and almost nobody warned me in time. If you let it keep going, those little signals turn into something you can't undo. I wasn't willing to lose my feet or my independence. So I started doing one thing every single day to help support healthy blood sugar and protect my legs. I'll show you exactly what in this video. And if you want the simple support I personally use, there's a free presentation linked in the description below. So here's the drink. Half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon stirred into a cup of warm water once a day. Most people do it in the morning, some prefer it after dinner. A 2003 study published in Diabetes Care found measurable reductions in fasting glucose among people with type 2 diabetes who used cinnamon consistently over 40 days. Steadier glucose means less of that osmotic pull on your kidneys at night, and less ongoing pressure on the vessel lining that governs blood flow everywhere in your body. Under $1 a month if you buy the ground cinnamon most stores already carry. This isn't a supplement aisle purchase dressed up as medicine. It's a spice jar you probably already own. But I want to be straight with you. A cup of cinnamon water by itself is not a complete system, and anyone who tells you one drink fixes years of vascular strain is selling you something. Alongside it, I eat a handful of spinach or kale most days. Leafy greens are naturally high in dietary nitrates, and research has documented their conversion in the body into nitric oxide, the very molecule responsible for signaling blood vessels to relax and widen. And most evenings, before I sit down for the night, I do 2 minutes of ankle circles and slow calf raises at the kitchen counter. That muscle contraction pulls glucose out of the bloodstream through a pathway that works independently of insulin, and it's been documented in exercise physiology research for years. The drink, the greens, the 2 minutes of movement, together, that's a system. Alone, any one of them is just a start. These days I sleep through most nights without getting up more than once, and last month I walked 4 blocks to my grandson's baseball game and back without needing to sit down halfway. That's not something I could say 2 years ago. I want to tell you about Harlan Voss. 71 years old, retired diesel mechanic out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, spent 40 years underneath trucks, and diabetes crept up on him the way it does most men, quietly, for over a decade before he really reckoned with it. He told our group he'd resigned himself to the bathroom trips and to the rest of it, figuring it was just what happened to a man his age with his condition. He said the hardest part wasn't the physical inconvenience, it was that he'd stopped mentioning it to his wife at all, just let it become an unspoken thing between them. After he started the cinnamon water alongside his evening walk and his medication, he told our group that within about 6 weeks, his nighttime trips had dropped from 3 or 4 down to 1 most nights. He shared, cautiously, that other things had improved too. He was careful to say he couldn't be sure how much was the drink and how much was simply sleeping better and feeling less exhausted all around. I share his experience as one man's story, not a promise. Every case is different, and none of this replaces what your own doctor has you doing. What struck me most about what Harlan said wasn't the number of bathroom trips at all. It was that he started talking to his wife again about ordinary things at night, instead of lying there in silence, pretending to be asleep so neither of them had to address the elephant in the room. He told our group that getting even a little more uninterrupted sleep gave him back enough energy during the day that the silence between him and his wife started filling back in on its own, without either of them ever having a big conversation about it. Sometimes the real change isn't dramatic. It's just quietly having more of yourself available for the people you love. Please don't stop or change any medication because of anything I've said here. Talk to your doctor about your own numbers before you adjust anything, including a spice in your water. I think often about the men I know who are still driving themselves to church, still carrying their own groceries up the stairs, still reaching for their wives in the night without a second thought, and the ones who quietly stopped and stopped talking about it, assuming nothing could be done. The truth is, so much of this comes down to one shared river running through your body, your blood sugar, your vessels, your nerves, and protecting that river protects more of your life than any one symptom lets on. It's not too late to pay attention to it. The body keeps responding to attention, even at our age, even after years of being ignored. If you made it this far, you already understand more about your own legs than most people your age ever will. That matters. You know now that the burning, the numbness, the cold feet, they trace back to one thing: blood sugar slowly working against your nerves and circulation. And you know the goal isn't a miracle. It's protecting your ability to stand, to walk, to stay independent. That's why, alongside everything I showed you today, I use a simple daily support to help keep my blood sugar in a healthy range, so my legs keep carrying me where I want to go. I put the free presentation in the description below. Go watch it. And as always, keep working with your doctor. This supports your routine. It doesn't replace it. If those bathroom trips have been part of your nights too, tell me how many in the comments. I read every one. And if this kind of honest, mechanism-first information is useful to you, subscribe, because we break down exactly this, one real cause at a time, every week.